Hello PMC viewers, Namaste. Today we are with Untold Story of Sita, writer Dena Merriam ma'am. Untold Story of Sita, writer Dena Merriam ma'am.
I never intended to write books. Sita is wanting her story to be told. Sita has come from the highest consciousness.
So many misconceptions about Ramayana.
It's very important to shed these misconceptions that have been with us for centuries.
Patriji emphasized, you read Sita and you read Sita and you read Sita and you read Sita and...
Patriji contacted me. And I was so glad he had by chance read the book. Took a pilgrimage to Ayodhya and then Vaishno Devi, the Vadanath temple in Jammu. And there I had those experiences, and it's like a door opened. I was back in time in the Treta Yuga. There was a deep connection and sense of oneness. Well, we've lost that consciousness. We've destroyed so much of the natural world to the point where the earth is on edge. There is no need for technology because the mind could create everything. People ask me, how do we do that? How do these masters work? It's through mental power, creating the concept, and then it can manifest physically.
About Sita Ma.
What is Sita calling us to do is reconnect. It's reestablish our oneness, our love, our care with the natural world.
What's your feeling? We want to know.
Disbelief.
We are with Dena Merriam ma'am. Please tell about the importance of meditation.
What would we do without meditation? I sometimes think of how people can get through life without meditation. It's like the telephone, the connecting to the internal world. It's like for the higher beings. It's that vehicle of communication. It's like if we didn't have phones, we couldn't call our families. If you don't have meditation, you can't connect. I wouldn't be able to connect with my Guruji, you know. He's trying to get through to me, but until I turn inside, I can't hear. And so he always said, I'll speak to you through meditation. You want to connect with me? It's through meditation. The same thing with Patriji. You want to connect there in that other dimension now. How do you connect with that other dimension? Through meditation. There's nothing more important than meditation. I'm very grateful I learned that when I was very young. And so meditation has been a practice since I was 20. But when I look into the future, and this is, again, another shift for me in my work, when I look into the future and I see that looking toward the end of the century, it is the growth and depth of the meditation community worldwide that is going to enable us to avoid the worst effects of climate change and other things that we are dealing with. It doesn't mean we're not going to have bumps on the road. But that's why there's nothing more important than meditation now. And it's the collective. We tune into the collective. And one of the things I'm writing about now in the Sita's Yoga is she was teaching people how to tune in to that collective energy. What made possible the victory over Ravan was the collective energy that Ram and Sita enabled. And they're doing it for our benefit. Once we can be part of that collective energy, we are growing spiritually. They can do it without us. But is that the way? They want us to evolve, enable us to be part of a collective energy that guides our future. We guide our personal future, but collectively we have to do it for the earth community. And that's what I see happening as this century progresses. So what we are all doing now in our personal meditations and group meditations is of utmost importance. I can't emphasize that enough.
Please tell about the importance of vegetarianism.
I was born naturally a vegetarian, but I was born into a secular family, and my mother made me eat meat. And it was a horrendous experience for me. I used to spit it into my napkin and then go throw it out until she discovered behind the radiator near my seat that there were balls of meat there. Sometimes I would put it behind that. As soon as I left home, went to college, it was like, I can be free of that now, and I didn't eat meat since then. So I think I raised my children vegetarian, my 2 sons, but of course they're not vegetarian now. But I just sit back and watch and say, someday, they'll appreciate that I spared them that, having to eat meat. People look at it as a sacrifice, I look at it as a relief. We have that option now. When I first became a vegetarian, there were few options in the West. You go into a restaurant and you'd get some steamed potatoes and string beans and carrots, and they thought you were ill. It was very difficult back in those days to be vegetarian. People couldn't understand why. You said, you have a health problem? Now it's so easy. And, that's where you can see progress. There's so many vegetarian options. Aside from the Indian food, just, veggie burgers and other things. There's so many options today. My guru used to say, when you eat meat, it putrefies in your system, and it causes disease that may not manifest for several decades. And he foresaw that a larger portion of the world would be vegetarian as the decades progressed. And I think it's true, but it's not enough. There are meat factories. And when you look at the way those factories treat animals, now you have things like bird flu. Well, can they be surprised when they're kept in cages? We have to free the animals to live naturally. And that's a big part of the change that we need to go through as a human community. So much of the climate issues will be resolved if we just treated animals differently and stopped eating them.
Please tell about Paramahansa Yogananda Maharaj.
What can I say about him? I found him when I was very young. He had already left his body. And that was a very great pain for me for a number of years when I was in my 20s, actually. My friends were running off finding embodied gurus, saying, you need a physical presence. And I said, what can I do? I've fallen in love. You can't just change your heart. I fell in love with a man, with a guru who'd already left the body. But it was the greatest blessing, because I had to find him inside. I had to connect with him internally. If you go before and Yogananda used to say that. When people would come to him for advice, Guru, what should I do this? Go meditate. The answers are inside. You have to find the answers to meditation. He always pointed people to meditation. Don't get attached to this personality, because this personality won't always be in the physical body. Find me in meditation. That's what I had to do. I had no choice. I had to find him. Devotees of Patriji now, he's left the body. Find him inside. It's a much deeper relationship, much deeper than any external. Of course, it's a blessing to be in the physical presence of the Guru. And I was heartened to find out in my previous birth, I had that for a brief time. If you read my book, My Journey Through Time, in my past birth, I had a few hours in the presence of Guruji. That's all, just a few hours. But that transmission was made. And then I've seen that I've been with him in previous births. And so now we have to get beyond that and connect on the higher planes. And what I've seen is whenever I've needed him, he's been there. Now in the autobiography of a yogi, for those of you who've read it, there's a section where Lahiri meets Babaji. And Babaji says, whenever you call me, I'll come. Of course, Lahiri then has some disciples there, and they want to meet Babaji, and so he calls Babaji. Babaji appears to him, but Babaji is not pleased. He says, this is not just a circus. I'll come when you need me, not just when you call me. He comes when I need him. When I really need him, he appears. But not just when I'm frivolous. Oh, Guruji, I miss you. I haven't seen you, Not when I'm frivolous, when there's a real need. Because we have to learn to connect on the internal plane. Once we know that the need for a physical presence is not so much there.
Please tell about Yukteswar Giri Maharaj.
I have a deep relationship with my Guruji, with Mahavatar Babaji, and with Lahiri. Yukteswar, I've always been a little bit in awe or a little bit afraid of because of the sternness. But I've come to see over the years his incredible wisdom. Incredible wisdom. For example, he was the one who helped me understand about the yugas. He was a master astrologer, a mathematician and astrologer. And he recalculated the way of calculating the yugas had been lost. Through the Kali Yuga, that knowledge had been lost. He brought it back and recalculated and was able to say, aha, we moved out of Kali Yuga. Many people think we're still in Kali Yuga. But because of his incredible intelligence and abilities, he was able to see that the energies had shifted. And it's an energetic, what are the yugas? As our solar system moves through the galaxy in a pattern, they say we have a binary, which scientists haven't found yet, in a pattern. We move through different spaces, some with more intense electrical magnetic energies, but it's all ordered. It's a pattern, a repeated pattern. And when we're in these higher areas, the spiritual perceptions are heightened. When we're in the weaker areas of electromagnetic energy, spiritual perceptions are weakened. And that's when you have where people can't see beyond the physical. In Kali Yuga, people couldn't see beyond the physical. They didn't even know that we rotated around a sun. They didn't even know that the earth was round. Well, the rishis knew that. That knowledge was all forgotten. Only the simplest explanations could they come up with. We've moved beyond that. And Sri Yukteswar, in his book, explains that. Ever grateful for, actually, spirituality as a science. And that's where we're moving toward, not as a faith system, but as a science. And he explains in his book the science of manifestation of the whole thing. And so I've taken an interest now in reading a lot about cutting edge of physics, because we are coming to a point where science is acknowledging what the Rishi spoke of. Science is acknowledging the non-locality of consciousness, meaning that consciousness is not tied to the brain. When the brain fails, dies, consciousness continues. Scientists are discovering this. This is revolutionary. This will make a huge difference. Scientists are also discovering we live in a multi-dimensional universe. So what we used to call the celestial worlds, the astral planes, other dimensions, subtler dimensions. Some people calling it now the energyverse. And the fact that there's the latest side, all this came to me through Sri Yukteswar, because his goal was to bridge science and spirituality. And his activity now, because these beings never stop being active, is to push science to that edge where they can scientifically acknowledge. So there are all kinds of experiments going on that now are proving the non-locality of consciousness and that are proving a multidimensional universe. But anyhow, this is an interest of mine. So I've come to appreciate in my elder years Sri Yukteswar in a different way and appreciate the work he's doing now.
Please tell about Lahiri Mahasaya.
Many people have made comparisons between Lahiri and Janak Baba. I intuitively had recognized this, but now I'm hearing it from other sources. Of course, the incarnations are very different. Lahiri was a householder working in an ordinary job. Those are key words. Householder, ordinary job. He made possible for householders to achieve the highest. It's what Janak Baba did. Janak Baba was a householder. He didn't have an ordinary job. He had an extraordinary job. Yeah. But he showed that you can achieve the highest even with the responsibilities of an extraordinary job. Lahiri showed you can achieve the highest doing an ordinary job, which is actually more relevant for our world today because most of us do ordinary jobs. We do the mechanics to make the society work. He worked in the railroad station. Very important, actually. It's not so because without people doing ordinary jobs, society wouldn't work. So those ordinary jobs are very, very important. And so that was what he manifested. He had 5 children. He maintained it all. And yet he had the highest consciousness. That's the model for the world today. And after Lahiri, of course, all of the teachings became available. I mean, previously, The teachings, you had to renounce the world to get the higher teachings. You know, you had to withdraw from the world. That changed in the 19th century. And others came as well to teach this. But the teachings that came to us at that time renounce the world. That's not what you're called to do now. You're called to be in the world. We all renounce the world. What would happen? We're called to be to transform the world. That's what I learned from Lahiri. To be in the world, to transform it, but not to lose the consciousness. To maintain that higher consciousness while you're in the world, because that's the way to transform it.
Amazing, amazing. This knowledge, this is like a Kohinoor diamonds. And please tell about powerful master and master of the master, Mahavatar Babaji.
He lives inside my heart. That's all I can say. He lives inside my heart. And I've been aware of his presence since I started on this path. However, now, as I travel through India, meeting people for various reasons, almost everybody talks to me about Babaji. Different lineages, but everybody talks to me about Babaji. And, I only know Babaji from my own lineage. And now I'm amazed. It's like, okay, his presence is very, very strong right now. He's working on so many levels, through so many lineages, with so many of the masters. And so, I used to think of Babaji as my own. Everybody has that feeling. He's the head of my lineage. Yes. But now I see that all the lineages go back to him. He's working with all the masters. He works at that level with all the masters, and very much guiding me. Often, when I've been told since I was very young that Babaji maintain his, if you can call it a physical presence, if you can call it that. I mean, he's in such a subtle form that he can manifest or not through the whole of this world cycle, that he's guiding the evolution of this world. Now, I've been to Bajranath 3 times because it's said that whatever of his physical presence is not far from there. So I've gone there, but you can't get to where he is because landslides will come or other things. He comes to where you are. You can't get to where he is. He comes to where you are. But I've gone still there thinking, okay, I'm not far. I'm, 20 kilometers, but through impossible trails to get there. And when I was in Bajranath one time, I heard of one yogi who had it in his mind to go find Babaji. And he went the path that sort of people say, and then a landslide came and he couldn't get any further. So it was night. He went and he found a little sort of like cave enclosure to spend the night. He woke up in the middle of the night and there was a fire going, a little fire in front of him. Babaji had come to him. He didn't see Babaji, but that was a sign. And when you're ready, you'll see Babaji. That's an aspiration. They say whenever you utter Babaji's name, you attract an instant blessing. He's that powerful. But when we come to the edge of a crisis in the world, I say to myself, okay, now Babaji's directing this whole thing, but that doesn't say what we're going to have to go through. It doesn't mean that we're going to have to go through the fire. But it's comforting to know that his awareness is right here. He's aware of everything.
Patri sir talks about Sita in an untold story of Sita so much. So please talk about Patri sir.
So we found each other. I say I was hoping to meet him in the physical, but then he tricked us all and departed before I could do that. But he has been an enormous presence for me, actually, in helping to bring the reality of Sita and Ram to greater audiences. He has been a real partner in that. I know that I've had a connection with Patriji in the past, and I know that his family is my family, my spiritual family, and I have a lot of gratitude for all that he's done personally for me and collectively for Mata. He's been a great force in bringing her awareness of her to more people. And so I know that he's continuing to do that work. Things are continuing. We just have to meet him on the inner plane, that's all.
Please tell about your past connection with Patri sir?
There are many personal things that I can't reveal. Somebody once asked me about if I would talk about my experiences of Babaji. I said, I'm sorry, I can't. And it's the same thing with Patriji. I know that I was in, he and I, we had a past birth. That's connected to Sitama, actually. And it's no accident that he's doing this work now. I knew him at that time as well.
After Patri sir vacated his body, you said you connected with him in higher world.
But I'd been planning to go to Hyderabad to meet him. He had asked me to come, and I said that I would, but then we were in the middle of COVID, and so I said that I was planning to go meet him. And just as I was seriously planning that, he left his body. And at first I was kind of like, well, that opportunity has passed. And then I heard him say, no, that opportunity has not passed. And I realized that he and I could work together more closely now because he didn't have all the responsibilities that he had previously. It's a freeing in a way. You know, it's my guru said, I'll be able to work with you more when I'm not in this body because you're free from certain responsibilities. And I think that same thing is true with Patriji. My work with Patriji is to bring to as many people as possible the living presence of Sita and Ram, because they go together. That's my work with him. And that work is continuing. Whether we get, I talked about a possibility of an animation series, and I'd like to get like a Netflix series on the book, and I'm going to need Patriji's help for that. Don't think that he's not as active now, more active, actually, because he can work from the internal, which is where things happen. Things first manifest internally before they manifest on the physical plane. That's true of everything. Things first on the spiritual plane, and then they manifest on the physical. So we need beings on the spiritual plane, on the higher plane, to be doing what they need to do before we can manifest, so we can manifest physically. And so those of you who are connected to him, deepen that connection so that he can work with you, both individually and collectively.
Ma'am, what's your purpose of life?
To awaken more fully into the reality. And so step by step, through our meditations, through our experiences, we hope to be more conscious, more conscious of who we truly are. We are omnipresent, we are omniscient, that's our true nature. So to live more in that reality, that is the purpose of our life, to awaken to our deeper self where we live in that reality.
Right now in this world, what is our responsibility?
Meditation. Because it's a matter of raising the vibrational level. You know, the conflicts that are going on are karmic conflicts. There's remnants of karma that people are not freed of yet, working itself out. Until we can see the history, we can't understand what that karma is. But we should know that it is karmic entanglements. I've worked in the Middle East initially for 10 years. I was doing dialogues there. And then I said to myself, these are karmic entanglements. I don't know how to untangle those strands. So what I started doing is trying to look for meditation groups, both in Israel and Palestine. I found quite a few in Israel. The Shivananda people have ashram there. Many of the Art of Living is there, Brahma Kumaris, there are many, many groups there. Fewer in Palestine. There was one Buddhist group, Thich Nhat Hanh, that I found in Palestine. So I tried to bring together the meditating groups. Well, the meditative energy was not strong enough. And so, the karmic entanglements didn't get resolved. They festered. And now they've exploded. I'm just talking about one area. There are lots of different areas, right, to talk about. So what can we do? Well, our individual meditation and collective raises the field, the vibration of the field. What I tried to do when I did these dialogues was to bring spiritual practitioners to sit with people who are going through trauma. It's hard work to enable people to let go of their traumas. And so I did that for a number of years, and then I realized there were a lot of people now trying to do that So what can I do best was to focus on raising the vibration of the whole planetary field. There's a collective field. The more of us who are doing our inner work, the more we're able to raise that vibration. So we all have that responsibility.
You are doing so many amazing works. So please tell about your organizations.
Well, for many years, my organization did peace dialogues in areas of conflict. And then for a number of years, we went to the UN climate conferences to bring this awareness of things that we've talked about to the public. Now we focus more on the spiritual level, gathering spiritual teachers together from different lineages to meditate together and to talk about how to manifest this vision that we're talking about, how to manifest this balance, how to manifest this higher consciousness. How do we evolve the consciousness on the planet? What is our work now to do? And so the best way to be in touch with my organization is to contact our Marianne, my assistant, who runs the organization, the Global Peace Initiative of Women, GPIW. And you can contact Marianne through info@GPIW and just tell her that you would like to be in touch with her, maybe have an email with her, and see how you can be involved in the work.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you all for coming.
How to express my gratitude? This much abundance of knowledge. We receive abundance of knowledge from you.
I have gratitude that you're coming here to share what I've gained so that others can also be part of this collective. It's a collective effort that we're part of. And so we need to be sharing and coming together to share the blessings that we all have.
So grateful to you, madam. Thank you very much for giving this opportunity for all of us.
Thank you all for listening to my stories.
Thank you very much.